Let me tell you a story. For the last 2 decades, a guy called Saket Rajan, not too many people have even heard of his name beyond Karnataka. Even in Karnataka, his name is pretty much faded from public memory. But for the last 20 or so years, Saket Rajan remains a folk hero of sorts in the feverish imaginations of the most die-hard Naxals or Maoists. So I make no distinction between Naxals and Maoists, but I'll come to that later. So this man, Saket Rajan, was a hardcore Maoist who was chiseled in the mold of the Naxalbari movement, from where you derive the word Naxalism. And he was chiseled in this pattern, in this mold, since the 1970s. He went by several aliases. For example, Comrade Prem, alias Master, alias Pandu. So this Saket Rajan, he was eliminated by a anti-Naxal police squad on February 6th, 2005 in the dense jungles of Chikmagalur, right here in Karnataka, about 5 hours away from Bangalore. And his death also wrote the premature obituary for trigger-happy Naxalism. I say premature obituary because Saket Rajan was the progenitor of armed Maoism in Karnataka, which had not existed at all since the since the evolution or the founding of Naxalism. And clearly, the Maoist annals, they still celebrate Saket Rajan as a fearless martyr, and there is actually a commemorative website in his honor. In those circles, he's kind of a legend. Now, incidentally, Saket Rajan hails from a Iyengar family from Mysore. I'll return to this point tangentially later as we go on. From a larger perspective, Saket Rajan is not merely a Maoist or a Naxal terrorist, but he is a great warning, he is a great symbol of every single thing that is wrong with Naxalism, right from its ideological conception to its eventual extinction, of which Operation Kagar is a big hallmark. And Saket Rajan's story is also a kind of archetype, meaning it is a symbol of a promising young lad who had potential to become a productive citizen, but he went astray after consuming a toxic diet of hardcore communist literature and after being brainwashed by several warmongering Naxal terrorists who used him as cannon fodder. All these Maoists who die at the hands of police bullets, they are cannon fodder used by the Maoist leadership. Saket Rajan
was one of them.
Yeah, one of them. Now, Saket Rajan's graduation into terrorism did not begin initially. It began with consuming toxic, voluminous amounts of hardcore communist literature, what is known as revolutionary literature, Karl Marx, Engels, Lenin, all these so-called communist intellectuals. But the real brainwashing, the real process of him turning into a hardcore gun-wielding terrorist, that was done sometime in the mid-1980s, and it was done by an Andhra-based violent Naxalite, a terrorist named Cherukuri Rajakumar. He was a leader of the former Maoist terror organization named PWG, or People's War Group. And this indoctrination of Saket Rajan was done when he was studying at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Delhi.
Oh, is that so?
On its campus and in its hostels and affiliated areas. This fellow, this Cherukuri Rajkumar, back then had a bounty of 10 lakh rupees on his head. Mid-90s, 10 lakhs is a lot of amount. That's more than 10 crores today. He had that kind of a bounty. And after brainwashing, recruitment happened. And as a result, Saket Rajan became a full-time Naxalite terrorist, like I said. And he quickly rose up the ranks of the militant group. And one of his first tasks was to expand the operations of Naxalism in Karnataka. And he obviously needed resources, which he was supplied. Resources plus young men, students essentially, who were willing to die for the cause, for this misguided cause. So Saket Rajan went on frequent tours to various university campuses, communist organizations, hostels, and he began to enlist fresh student talent. But Rajan's recruitment at IIMC, it is actually a symptom. It is a symptom of a widespread, a prolonged phenomenon, a dirty, ugly, violent phenomenon, which the smartphone and the social media generation is largely ignorant about. They have no clue the kind of danger that this poses. I'll expand on that as we go along. For more than half a century, our university campuses had become the incubators of left-wing terror. JNU being the most prominent, Jadavpur University, lots of universities like that. And the immediate aftermath of Saket Rajan's death is even more important because it shows the other side of the same coin. What happened after Saket Rajan was encountered was that the whole of the so-called humanities department, the academic establishment, colleges, universities, the whole of that, plus so-called progressive writers, authors, intellectuals, and significant sections of the Kannada media, they closed ranks, they stood as one unified body, and they mounted a venomous campaign of intimidation against the then Karnataka Chief Minister, Shri Dharam Singh, the late Dharam Singh. He was not exactly known for his decisiveness, to put it mildly. Dharam Singh bowed down to their pressure, and on the floor of the Karnataka Assembly, he uttered some words of praise, applauding the so-called brilliance of Saket Rajan.
He did?
He did. It's part of the assembly record. And guess who else mourned the death of this terrorist Saket Rajan? The late U.R. Anantamurthy. But the most vocal obituary came from the pen of a lady, a deceased lady, known as Gauri Lankesh. This Gauri Lankesh was Saket Rajan's senior in both Bangalore University and as well as IIMC. Okay. And about 7 or 8 months before his death, Gauri Lankesh had entered the deep jungles of Malenadu or Shimoga, Kudremukh, Sringeri, that region, Malnad. She had entered those deep jungles, and she had done a long and sympathetic interview with Saket Rajan, essentially supporting his cause, adding fodder to it, glamorizing it. And later, after his death, this same Gauri Lankesh wrote a long, glowing obituary on the pages of a magazine, an infamous magazine called Tehelka. Like I said, Saket Rajan's death had rather far-reaching consequences, and his death, in their language, it is martyrdom. It was a perfect opportunity for Maoists, for their affiliated intellectuals, for the whole gang, for the whole ecosystem, to increase temperatures in public discourse and elsewhere. There is an entity named Citizens Initiative for Peace, or CIP. It has no address. It is a post office entity located in Delhi now. Immediately after his death, this CIP jumped into action and it demanded Dharam Singh to hand over Saket Rajan's body into its custody.
Into its custody?
Yes.
And what is the locus standi?
I'll tell you. So, this CIP was populated by extremely powerful and influential leftist and NGO activists of the entire spectrum. I'll read out some names. Its prominent members included the late Justice Rajinder Sachar, Harsh Mander, Mahashweta Devi, Medha Patkar, Aruna Roy, T. Star Setalwad, Ramchandra Guha, the terrorist Sandeep Pandey, Shabnam Hashmi, another Maoist leader, G. Haragopal, Nandini Sundar, who is the wife of Siddharth Varadarajan, and another gun-toting Naxalite named Binayak Sen. Sounds familiar?
Yes,
all these names?
My God.
So they got together and exerted pressure on Dharam Singh. All in the name of what? Look at their names. Citizens Initiative for Peace.
You gotta hand it to them.
Okay, it's quite a spectrum, Parag. It ranges and it covers entire gamut from Maoist theorists to Maoist terrorists. Quite a spectrum, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And some of these people eventually made their way into Sonia Gandhi's unconstitutional body called the National Advisory Council, or NAC.